So if you go to the most recent quarterly filing and you actually type in and you hit Control F to search this up and you type in bankruptcy, it's very interesting. So they highlight potential risk, right? Because they have to do this in a 10Q. They have to highlight any sort of, it's essentially like, you have to highlight any sort of risk. It's like a prospectus for the most part. So they say this is as of their last quarterly filing, which was March 31st of 2022. So I'll just skim through this and I'll read, some of the more important and, differing things that I noticed here in this synopsis. So they say, as of March 31st, 2022, we held $256 billion in custodial fiat currencies and cryptocurrencies on behalf of customers. Supported crypto assets are not insured or guaranteed by any government or government agency. Kind of goes without saying. That's all crypto. It's not backed by anyone, Okay, so here we go. Our success and the success of our offerings requires significant public confidence in our and our partners' ability to properly manage customer balances and handle large and growing transaction volumes and amounts of customer funds. Seems pretty valid. So here you go. This is the main point I found here. Any failure by us or our partners to maintain the necessary controls or to manage customer crypto assets and funds appropriately and in compliance with applicable regulatory requirements could result in reputational harm, litigation, regulatory enforcement actions, significant financial losses, and then it says lead customers to discontinue or reduce their use of or our partners' products. Skip ahead a little bit. Okay, they're talking about how financial condition would be significantly impacted, operating results, etc. Here's the most important 3 sentences you will hear regarding Coinbase. Moreover, because custodially held crypto assets may be considered to be property of the bankrupt estate. In the event of bankruptcy, the crypto assets we hold in our custody on behalf of our clients could be subject to bankruptcy proceedings, and such customers could be treated as our general unsecured creditors. Okay, that is scary, folks. What that means is any crypto that you have with Coinbase or really any sort of publicly traded or really privately held crypto exchange, you could be treated as a general unsecured creditor. So in terms of liquidation, this is really important to understand. In bankruptcy proceedings, and I'm talking about not restructuring bankruptcy, I'm talking about total, standard run-of-the-mill bankruptcy that everyone thinks of when they hear the term bankruptcy. Like you're going out of business, right? So in that sort of scenario where you are a general unsecured creditor, I will explain what that means. So there's really 3 main tiers that you'd fall into, and then there are some subsections of each tier. So the creditors and lenders get paid out first, but those are the secured creditors and lenders, okay? Now, that would be like bondholders, right? Debt holders, any sort of lender or creditor in that respect. Secured debt, that's what that is. The second tier is unsecured debt, right? Then below that, you have preferred stock. And then common stock always gets paid out last if there's any money left over in the event of bankruptcy. 99% of the time, there's nothing left for common stock, right? But why this is important is that let's say you have a portfolio of $100,000 in Bitcoin and you have it on Coinbase. What will happen is you will lose all of that money if Coinbase ever goes under. So it's the old adage that's been screamed from the fucking rooftops about crypto for the longest time. Not your keys, not your coins. Very simple. If you are holding an asset and you're not holding it in your custody and you're leaving it on an exchange, the exchange itself is impervious to any sort of hack. Your account, you specifically, I'm sorry, impervious is not the right word. You're vulnerable. The exchange itself is vulnerable to hacks, right? You're vulnerable to hacks through your account alone. So that's 2 attack vectors right there. And then the third vector is the exchange itself filing for bankruptcy versus you storing something in your own custody in cold storage, you having access to the physical keys to access that wallet to then be able to move that crypto. And the other aspect is you can't access that wallet unless you have the physical device to use to put in your keys to access that wallet. So like there's literally no reason why you shouldn't have anything in cold storage. There are so many good solutions to making a cold storage wallet where really like you could have a fucking paper wallet too. It doesn't matter. You could literally make a wallet and just generate like a random fucking 12 12 phrase or 24 phrase seed and just write it down on a piece of paper and then just scatter the pieces of paper around. Like if you read the book Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin Billionaires, I believe, by Ben Mesrick. He created a lot of people know The Social Network, but he created the book that inspired the movie The Social Network. You know, that story is about the founding of Facebook. But in the book, he talks about how he interviewed the Winklevoss twins and what they did with their cold wallets was like they had paper wallets and they wrote down some of the phrases, but they scattered everything. It was like 24, 25 word, like a seed, right? And they spread it throughout like all over the world. So like one bank would have like two of the words, and then another bank would have like three. And they'd all be unaffiliated banks and they would be stored in like safety deposit boxes, like all over the fucking world. So unless you had access to like six different or like eight different banks where you could break into the bank and then hit the security deposit boxes, or like you somehow knew that they had accounts there, you would never know like where the seed phrases were. And I think that's a good rule of thumb. Like, not maybe to that extreme if you're just a normal person with like maybe a couple $100 or like a couple $1,000 to throw around, but like keeping your money on the exchanges, like you have to be aware. You have to be aware that, like I said, there are three main attack vectors. You got to know them and you got to be aware. And it's your money. So you really have to watch it like nobody else because no one's going to care for your money like you. You worked hard for it. Money is just the median of exchange. Money is just a way of quantifying labor. So like when you look at a pair of sneakers or whatever you're buying, let's say you make $10 an hour and you're looking at buying fucking $200 pairs of shoes, you got to go, how many fucking hours is that of work? I'm making $10 an hour. The pair of shoes are $200. Let's assume that's tax and everything all in. It somehow comes out to a round number. Just go with my example. You have to sit there and go, okay, that's 20 hours worth of fucking labor. I'm trading 20 hours of my life for a pair of shoes. That's how you got to look at money. That's what it comes down to. And that's a good way to prevent yourself from overspending. And it'll also help keep you in check with respect to how you manage your money and your investments as well. God, you have any advice for people looking to getting to the crypto space of like how to store their stuff and kind of what to be aware of? I know you spoke to me offline briefly about this whole thing with Coinbase, and you had some advice, and I thought some of it was really good. So I'd love to hear what you have to say for the people.
Yeah, about the Coinbase thing, I'm not really too worried about this to be completely honest. I think Coinbase's business model is very solid. I don't see them going bankrupt or anything like that, where this would be an issue. They got Brian Armstrong. He's one of the greatest founders in Silicon Valley right now. He's keeping politics out of work. He's not allowing people to divide his company within. And I don't see Coinbase really going bankrupt, and I don't see this being the case. And that filing, they're required by law to submit that filing because basically cryptocurrency has never been litigated in a bankruptcy proceeding. So it is a risk. It's a potential risk factor that in a bankruptcy settlement that they would consider the cryptocurrency as Coinbase ownership and not your ownership. So they have the risk when you're filing with a when you have these filings with the SEC, you have the risk. You have to like list potential risk factors. Counterparty risk, bankruptcy risk. Any kind of competition risk. You have to you have to submit a whole bunch of risks that as risk factors for your business. AMD and Nvidia, they just got in trouble recently because they didn't list about how Bitcoin mining affects their business and how like a large sum of chips are being bought by Bitcoin miners. So they didn't put in their list of legal disclosures that Bitcoin mining is a big Bitcoin miners are a big purchaser of these chips, and if Bitcoin mining subdues, or there's less demand for Bitcoin mining, then there's going to be less demand for our chips. So in these like list in these like legal lists by in where when these companies have these lists or whatever, where they have to list these risk factors. This could be one of them in a proceeding. Coinbase can end up, if Coinbase ends up going bankrupt, you might lose your Bitcoin. And if you're like really worried about this, I'm not really too worried about it. I don't see Coinbase going bankrupt anytime soon. You could take your coins, take them off the platform to protect against this. You could diversify your coins across many different exchanges or platforms. But really, the best thing that you could do is just to take it off the exchanges in and of itself and store it yourself, and have a multi-sig wallet, so that you don't get kidnapped and have forced to give up your keys or anything like that. You should always have a multi-sig wallet with multiple signatories on it.
Totally agree, 100%. And I think a way to do that and to take it a step further is you see a lot of these crypto wallets, right? We saw a lot of these influencers, as Philion says. Love that guy, good YouTuber. But you see that there's a lot of influencers and like all these shitheads like making money on these crypto scams, and they're getting caught in 4K because they're running all the money to one wallet. Now, if you're a crypto influencer and you're a scammer, you're not allowed to hear this. But if you're like a normal person that just wants, you just want your Fourth Amendment honored, right? You don't want any unreasonable search and seizure. I'm with you. I'm not really in favor of that shit either. But I'll tell you this: God talks about multi-sig wallets. Well, there's another thing called SegWit, which is very important too. So you can do multi-sig, which is multiple signature verification, and then you can do SegWit, which is basically you generate, let's say Bitcoin, you generate a unique Bitcoin address that's tied directly to that transaction, which then ties to your main wallet. But your main wallet will not come up as the transaction ID when it's listed on the blockchain. So it actually generates a unique wallet address, which then forwards to your wallet, but it doesn't appear in the blockchain. It only appears as one transaction from, let's say, wallet A to wallet B, but your main wallet is C. So there's a transfer from B to C, but people don't see the transfer from B to C. They see it as just A to B on the blockchain, which is important to understand that. That's a very important distinction, because then you're able to, let's say you have a crypto wallet of, I don't know, $20,000 in Bitcoin, and you have a recent transaction that goes from A to B of 2,000, you're able to move that 2,000 into the $20,000 wallet without showing that you have 20,000 in Bitcoin in that wallet in conjunction. That's how you do it. SegWit. Look it up, people. Look it up. But speaking of all this crypto stuff and anything related to that, I will say this. Oh, did you have something you wanted to say? I feel like I cut you off a little there. What's up?
No, I was just gonna say that's a good point that you made about the Segway wallet.
Yeah, definitely look into that SegWit. It's a good technology. It was one of the big rollouts of like that Taproot upgrade for Bitcoin. If you know, motherfuckers. Anyway, yep, go ahead. What's up?
Coinbase. When you look at this thing with Coinbase too, it's not saying that necessarily in a bankruptcy proceeding that your coins are definitely going to be confiscated. It's saying it's just like a risk factor, which is, I think it's important for people to like understand and not blow this out of proportion. Because like if you look at, say, even like consignment agreements, right? If you don't have a proper consignment agreement, say you sell shoes at one of these shops like a Flight Club and Stadium Goods, etc., right? They have consignment agreements to protect you. But if you don't have a proper consignment agreement in effect, these the creditors that the bankrupt company owes money to, they're going to challenge the validity of who's really the owner of the goods, and you're going to get yourself into trouble if you don't have a proper consignment agreement in effect. So I think Coinbase should look into some kind of like a legal document that basically states that they're not the owner of these coins, and that the users are the owners of the coins, and basically have everyone sign it to basically like mitigate this risk somehow if they can.